Welcome to The Artist Matters. I'm Alex Rudy, and each week you will meet incredible artists from all walks of life. Filmmakers, writers, actors, painters, musicians, and so many more, sharing their stories to motivate and inspire the creative in you. Whether you're doing it for fun or looking to make a living, this show will help you on your journey to bring out the artist within and letting the world know that your art matters. Hi everybody, welcome back to The Artist Matters. I'm your host, Alex Rudy. And Thanksgiving was last week. Hopefully you had lots of things to be thankful for and lots of opportunities to be giving. Mine was different. I went to IHOP, oddly enough. Yes, I did. I went there. I had chicken and waffles. It seems kind of funny to be doing that. IHOP did have a turkey dinner plate, but once I walked in there and I saw the pancakes on people's plates, I was feeling that nice starchy, cakey appetite arise, so I went for that. And it served its purpose. It was nice. I got a little poultry in there. And then I went across the street from that IHOP to Busch Gardens. First time I've ever gone to an amusement park as a guest to play and go on the rides. And it was fun to be back on the coasters. It's been a while. And it was pretty good crowd there. A lot of people had the same thing in mind as we did, my wife and I. And it was still a joy. The weather was awesome. No humidity. I think it was 82 down here in Florida. Got to see the Christmas on Ice show held at the Moroccan Palace over there in Busch Gardens. Very creative, elaborate costumes, very talented skaters, dancers. Very enjoyable show. It was a nice day and got to see some of the lights they set up and all that. We left before it got, too dark. It was fun to see that and enjoy a day there. I did work at an amusement park on Thanksgiving back in 2010. I worked at Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom, Turnstiles. I'm not sure if I did the parade, but I know I definitely worked Turnstiles, and people were coming in. It was a pretty steady stream of people coming in to the park on Thanksgiving Day back then. And as evidenced by our trip to Busch Gardens, people still do it. So why not? Place is open all year round. Something different, something fun. Keeps things lively. All right, let's get down to brass tacks with today's guest. She has been working in every genre, including film, television, theater, and radio for over 30 years. Today we welcome Laurie Durrett. Now, acting has been her passion, but as you'll hear, she has learned a lot more about the biz. And what you'll hear in this conversation from Laurie, some funny little tidbits and stories, like at an early age, she'd watch movies, and if she didn't like the ending, she'd act it out again with a better ending. Just shows how imaginative she was. Obviously, she fell in love with theater because she felt more open when she was on stage, as many actors tend to do. It can be sometimes shy and reserved, but when they get on that stage, it awakens something in them. I know. I've been there myself. And Laurie's journey started in Texas. At one point, she went to L.A. to try and pursue acting and the such over there with very little to her name. Got some work here and there, even became a reporter. But then she went back to Texas, got some acting gigs, but soon realized they were few and far between. So she started learning more about the business and more of the production side, and enjoyed that too. She was open-minded, learned it, and it helped fill in the empty voids between acting gigs and, let her learn another side of the business and earn from it. She also discusses her challenges of balancing work, life, but she finds a way. And that's one of the things I admire about her. She's found a way to keep up with her creative side and all aspects of the biz. She's not confining herself to one part of it. And that is something a lot of us can learn from. And you will. But remember, this is over 30 years in the biz, in so many aspects. So I had to break this up into 2 parts. It's a lot. But she offers so much. And I even had to ask her, are there any things you'd like to highlight? Because her resume is long. You'll see it in the show notes when I give you the listing to her website. It is a long and diverse resume. And thankfully, she narrowed it down to a few things. So, without further ado, here is part 1 of my chat with Laurie Durrett. Welcome to the show, Laurie.
Thank you.
It's Durrett, yes?
Yes.
Durrett.
Durette, Durette.
Is that French?
In East Texas, it's Derek.
Oh,
but Durette works.
Durrett. Well, thanks for connecting. Thanks for being on the show. You had one heck of a resume.
It's just because it's long and I'm old.
She's been doing it for quite a few years, quite a few decades.
Since I was born.
Yes. Well, that's where we start, at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Texas, where I am now. Wow. I actually grew up in Houston, or Houston, as they call it, but the big old city of Houston. So,
was that area a very encouraging artistic place?
Yeah, it was. It's, Houston was, even back when I lived there, it was obviously like a booming metropolis. I mean, Houston was and still is, what is it, like the 3rd or the 4th largest city in the country. And the arts were very prevalent back then. And I was real fortunate. We actually moved there when I was in the 2nd grade. I came from Wyoming. I was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And we came there to Texas when I was in the 2nd grade. And I went to a huge, your schools aren't marked out by like 1A, 2A, 3A. It's not like that system in where you are. Okay, because in Texas, you have level of school, depending on how many kids go there. It can start down like in a 1A, which is like 100 kids go to the school, all the way up to a 6A, which is like 3,000 or 4,000 kids in a school. Cool. But even when I was in the 2nd grade, I went to it was like a 4A school. So there were a lot of kids in the school. But when I got into the high school, it was very big in the arts, which was wonderful. I mean, I had pretty much started my trek in the art world probably when I was in elementary school. But I really started pursuing it and studying it hard when I went into high school. So it was a perfect opportunity. And Houston we lived right on the outskirts of Houston in a place called Spring, or if you're from Houston, it's Sprang. But anyway, so it was kind of like in the outskirts. So it was a brand new school, beautiful school, top of the art facility, and they had great teachers. And we didn't have testing back then, so you could pretty much actually learn stuff. Teachers could actually teach. And my theater teacher was a brand new teacher, and he taught kind of like all of the new nuances of theater, and it was a lot of fun. It was challenging and a great fun. I loved it.
Well, going back further, what got you interested in any kind of arts? Were you always creative at a young age? Did something specific interest you?
But I was creative to the point of like being really scary, not in a bad way, but I would come up with these huge, elaborate stories, and then I would convince my friends about these stories to where they would believe me when I was This sounds it almost sounds like I need to be talking to a psychiatrist, but I had my best friend and probably 3 or 4 of her friends convinced that the spirit of Long John Silver had come out of a rock and was amongst us. And he would tell me things. and I remember I had these guys like trail along for like a week, that this spirit of Long John, and this is probably in the 3rd or 4th grade. And I remember one day, a friend of mine, one of the girls, she was like, I don't believe a word you're telling me. You're making all this stuff up. So I tied string. It was actually thread. I tied thread to the heels of 2 pairs of men's shoes, and they were like half boots. And she came over one night, and I didn't tell anybody. She came over, and I hid the boots around the corner of like in our living room, right by our front door. And she came in and she was talking, and I was in the other room, and I was pulling the strings and making it look like the boots were not walking, obviously, but just scooting along. I felt so horrible. She turned around and saw the boots and passed out clean on the floor.
Really?
It scared her so bad.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh my God, I killed her. What have I done? So from a very young age, I would come up with these elaborate stories, and I loved television. I had a passion for film, so much of a passion for film, but I would go home if my mom and dad or my mother would take me to a film. My dad traveled a lot, so my mother and I went to a lot of films, but I would get home after we went to a film, and I would go into my bedroom and I would reenact the entire film. And if I didn't like the ending of the film, I would change it and make the film to my liking. And I would play every character. I would try to remember as much of the lines as if I could. So it pretty much just kind of started, I mean, even way back then. So like I said, I don't know if I needed a child psychologist or what the issue was, but I've just done it as far as the creative aspect of it for as long as I can remember.
Wow, that's great.
So, yeah. People are like, hey, maybe she needs a little bit of a padded cell right now, but
she's got the arts will take care of it. That's your therapy.
Yes, exactly.
Really, it reminds me. I think I don't remember what year, but Kramer versus Kramer. I remember relating to Dustin Hoffman and trying to imitate him. And I'm a kid. But I was just wanting to talk like him, act like his character, and I'm like, emulating him like as a kid.
Oh yeah, and if you're in your room or by yourself and doing that, you're always so much better than they are.
Yeah,
it's like I could have done that so easy. Was that not an incredible film? That was. It
really was. I mean, it impacted me as a kid.
Oh yeah. There's so many films and then live presentations I've seen on stage when I was little. My mom and dad were one of the season ticket holders.
Oh.
To a place in Houston. It's called Theater Under the Stars, and it's a world-renowned theater in Houston. But they were season ticket holders to it, so we would go to the theater a lot, and then of course I would go to films a lot too. But every time I would see anybody up on stage, or I would watch a film or whatever, it just impacted my life so much. I mean, that's where I really started developing, and you probably do too, being an actor. That's where you start developing critical thinking, and start on your own of making decisions on your own and trying to look at the world from a totally different point of view or aspect that I think kids older than us had never even thought about. But those things impact you so dramatically that you just kind of sit up and say, wow, this person that I thought was an idiot or something like that. You see that kind of character in a film and you're like, oh my God, I never thought about it from that perspective. And you become, I think actors are very empathetic, and they become so much more socially aware of things that people go through. So I think that's one of the beautiful things about becoming an actor is because you really see the different perspectives of people and their personalities, and you're able to accept them much more openly. So,
very true.
Not to get too deep there, but
hey, you can get deep here with the art.